Okay, so today's show is going to talk about the Rust situation. They're going to talk to the assistant director. So I want to see what he says. Because here's my new theory. I'm going to say it before this interview. My theory is nobody's thinking about the director's um, blame, if he has any, because he was shot. But as I've been thinking about more and more, I'm like, all right, the producers are important. The director decides a lot. So I don't know, because this was okay. Let's see what they have to say. Meaning, what's his name? Joao Souza or something. The director. But this, we're talking to the AD. I thought they were going to talk to him. They're just reading the New York Post. Okay. What? This lawyer's shitty. uh, they're all responsible because everybody's supposed to check it. You're supposed to say cold gun if it's a cold gun. What if these people are just okay? I'm supposed every time they give it to me, I'm supposed to say cold gun. What if this is how dumb people are? A resignation letter. It had to be somebody not important. There are no safety meetings these days. See, I didn't get to read that LA Times article. I'll explain. Yeah, somebody shot herself in the foot. See? You can't shoot yourself with a blank. Do you understand what I'm saying? That means something was in there. It's supposed to be a blank. And this girl, the armorer, Gutierrez, Reed, whichever her last name is, or both, on the reason I called it Gutierrez is because on the IMDb she's listed just as Gutierrez. It doesn't say Gutierrez slash Reed, so I don't know what her name's supposed to be. Yeah, see, it's it's a lot of people's job to make sure of safety. It's not whose job is it to just check that there's nothing in the gun. Everybody's supposed to be worried about safety, so everybody's supposed to check. Okay, yesterday I was trying to read the LA Times article, which looks very interesting to me online, but it's only for subscribers. I am not subscribed to the LA Times. So I said, well, I'll go to the library because the library is a library and it'll have a subscription to the LA Times. And I get there and it's like, no. And I was like, okay, let me go ask the librarian. And she's like, no. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. Because to me, the point of having, I'm going to end up on a rant about money and funding. Okay, anyway, the point is, then I went around to, back in the old days, we used to read newspapers, right? So in the next room, from where the computers are, they have all the, newspapers and magazines and stuff. And I came around to look at the shelf wall thing where all the newspapers were, and it looks like they have like a third of the newspapers they used to have. Probably because of COVID, because everything that's going wrong is because of COVID. And people are doing all kinds of cuts and canceling things and shutting things down that used to benefit people, especially poor people. Library stuff, free laundry stuff. Everything is getting shut down, was shut down from COVID and has not come back. But there were like a third of the newspapers, because it used to be newspaper, 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 then the next row. And it's like one newspaper, two newspapers, one newspaper, two newspapers, and I'm just like, what the hell happened? You know, so and it looks like it's all local. So for me, it's like it's that much easier for me to get local news without trying very hard. So to go to the library is where I need stuff that's not right there in front of my face. So it's like now, I mean, I think that's part of the agenda. Because I know a long time ago, the part of the agenda, the woke crowd who weren't even called woke back then, they were trying to get people to not be connected internationally instead of supporting funding for transportation, which woke people should do, like public transport and more trains and stuff like that. Their attitude was, oh no, we should do everything locally. Locally. So make everything walkable, make everything so that people don't have to like get their products and stuff from far away. So instead of having shipping, instead of having, you know, imports and exports and stuff like that, just do everything locally, like hippie commune stuff. But it's like, then that makes people insular. That's how gangs work. You know what I mean? Because they never leave their little neighborhood and they get a gang mentality. So it's totally against the kind of world I think we should have. This is why I've been saying it's not just recent, it's not just COVID, that made me realize the world I knew was breaking down. It was breaking down and rolling to a stop before all this happened. So that they accelerated it with lockdowns and stuff, with COVID as the excuse, is whatever. But see, I went on a rant. The point is, I was trying to read the paper and it wasn't available to me. So I put $1 in the bank thinking I might get the subscription for $1. But then I was like, no, because it's for 6 months, right? But I was like, no, because then 6 months in a day, I'll want to read something, and I'm not paying $98 for a subscription. But that's ridiculous that it's not available through the library. That kind of, you know, but then if another Harry Potter book came out, the library would buy like 12. You know, because everything has become about giving people what they want to make money instead of giving people what they need. So the news that you watch acts like online stuff, and that the news wants to get the most views, like the internet would want clicks, so they report on things people are already talking about instead of reporting to you the news and information you need to be an intelligent human being on earth. So they don't tell you stories. They tell you what you already want to hear, so you'll tune in so they can make ad money. The more people they have watching, the more ratings they have, the more they can charge for commercials. That's how networks make their money. So advertising, right? But that's what the newspapers, libraries should not be about, what makes them the most money. But everything is money now. Everything is economy. And this is why I was hoping that a pandemic would end money and we would come to a golden age of milk and honey and all that shit. But alas, this guy, here's what I'm thinking about this shoot. Okay, so I've been thinking about it more and more, and as I'm talking about Alec Baldwin and how he didn't do this and he didn't do that as a producer, in the end, okay, it depends on the movie, it depends on the set. I don't know who this director is. He was shot, but generally speaking, on a set, the person in charge is the director, unless they're producers watching them, telling them what they can and can't do because of money. Okay, so when I was saying the other day about who decided that they were going to use real guns in the first place, and I was trying to say, would that be the producer? I'm like, probably not. It's probably the director who wants a vision, if it's his vision, unless he's being paid to, like, as a hack, to just come in and direct somebody else's vision, which would then be one of the producers or what. I don't know whose idea this movie was. I don't know who, if this was Alec Baldwin's pet project, let's say, and he hired a director, then he would, almost all the fault would fall on him, except the armorer and this assistant director. Now, assistant director, it sounds like he's a doofus. If he thinks that he's just supposed to, once the armorer checks it, He's just supposed to take it and say cold gun. Because that's almost what it sounded like from that quote. Like the armorer checks it. He trusts the armorer and then just says cold gun because he was standing there when the armorer checked it and he doesn't check it himself. I don't know what the Hollywood rules are. It doesn't sound like there are fast and hard rules on chain of command, who's supposed to check and stuff like that. I don't know. But the assistant director is an assistant director. So if this guy's been bad before, if he hasn't done his job before he got hired, this is what I'm saying. It just looks like it's an entire mess. Whoever the boss was, whoever seemed like the boss on the day, to me, has the most culpability. Whoever hired an inexperienced armorer, whoever hired an assistant director who's had problems before, anybody who had the gun go through their hands and didn't check it to make sure there was nothing in it. It just sounds like they did everything wrong. And it sounds like everybody did everything wrong. But what occurred to me yesterday was, wait a minute. Nobody's asking what the director did wrong because he got shot. It's entirely possible that he made the decision to use guns, real guns, which would have meant he needed to at least have some idea that the right people were in place to make sure nothing bad happened. So I'm like, wait a minute. So we're going to blame the armor. We're going to blame Alec Baldwin. We're going to blame this assistant director. What's his name? Ball or something? I think there's one more person that we're not even talking about, and that's the director, because he got shot. Because everybody's thinking of him as a victim. But if he made the decision to use real guns, when, whoever made that decision, I'm not saying he did, but it occurred to me when I was trying to figure out, when I was saying, well, whoever decided to use a real authentic gun didn't even, didn't want to go the safe route from the beginning, which is just using plastic things that can't even fire anything. Because that's what I assumed, I said before, that's what I had assumed they did in Hollywood now, that they didn't even use real guns. Except to maybe pose with them. You know what I mean? Like for, just to not even, to like stand there like this with the gun. See how I had it off camera? Like I didn't want to shoot myself. Anyway, like if they had it just to pose and nobody did anything, and then they took it out of their hand and put a fake one and then went like that. You know what I mean? Just to be on the super safe side. But if they're using real guns and somebody's going like that, they're going and then like this. Somebody made that decision. There's a bird tweeting. I thought it was tweeting behind me. It's outside. It was a particularly sharp tweet. Anyway, so yeah. So this guy sounds like he just thinks it's like dance steps. Armorer checks it, I go cold gun, and then I go about my business. So I don't know if that guy's ever... Now I'm wondering if he ever checked the gun after the armor on whatever set he was on. Did it. This sounds like he just trusts the armorer to check, and then he just yells cold gun. That's what it sounded like from that quote. You tell me if I'm wrong. I would love to question all these people because I will ask people questions until they cry. Which, when I was in college, they gave me that ASVAB, well, not college, when I was in high school, like, they give you the ASVAB test senior year when you've already decided what you're going to school for. And it said that I should be a priest, a cop, or a lawyer. Which people treat me like I'm a priest. They tell me all that crap and stuff like that, and I like spirity stuff. And if any of these professions were the honorable profession they're supposed to be, yeah. But I'm too honest to have gone down any of those paths. I am honest though. You believe me or not? Yeah. I want to know my new thing that I want to know, and it could have been in that article. I'm so sad that I didn't get to read it, but $1 is too much for me. I want to know who made the decision to use authentic firearms on this set instead of, and I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that's how this whole thing would have been avoided. So whose decision was it? Let's use real guns. Because to me, it was either Alec or I really doubt if it was one of the other producers, because he's the star producer. So it was either Alec Baldwin or the director. That's my guess. I want to know who decided real firearms.